Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is explaining a very important point in Madhya Kadambini, Madhya Kadambini, in the first section where he talks about bhakti. And he's describing that there's Kam, Gyan and Yog and Bhakti. Kam, Gyan, Yog and Bhakti. You know these different paths. Kama Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Mystic Yoga and Bhakti. You know these? So Kama Yoga, that means what? Well, when we say the one who follows Kama Yoga, it means Kama Kandya. Kama Kandya. You know, it does fruitive havens and stuff like this, and of course Ramanuja also does havens. Anyhow, and then Gyan basically means speculation, speculating about the absolute truth, and then mystic yoga. So bhakti is not dependent on any of these. Bhakti is not dependent. Bhakti is superior to all of these, and bhakti is not dependent on any of these. But these are dependent on bhakti. Kam, Gyan, and Yog. When we say Yog, we're talking about mystic Yog. These are very much dependent on bhakti. You know, and if you follow these other processes, and you make a mistake or you don't perfect it, then everything is lost. But if you follow bhakti and you don't perfect, nothing is lost. Tyaktva swa dhammam chana bhujam hari. Even a little bit of advancement on the path of bhakti can protect you. Nihabhagramana soste prachavana vidyate. You know that verse? Even a little bit of advancement on the path of devotionals can protect you from the most dangerous type of fear. Even a little bit of practice of bhakti. And there's an example that in the Srimad Bhagavatam there's the story of Indra Shatu. You remember that Maharaj Chitraketu took birth as Vitrasura. Vitrasura is the demon. Do you remember? Because you haven't read it, that's why. Anyhow, in the sixth canto, one Brahmin wanted to create a demon that would kill Indra. He wanted to create Twista. He wanted to create a demon that would kill Indra. Because he didn't like Indra. He wanted to create a demon that would kill Indra. It's in the sixth canto. So this Brahmin wasn't following the process of bhakti. He was following the process of mystic yoga or karma yoga. Not karma yoga as in Bhagavad Gita, but karma yoga, karma kandya, fruitive activities, ceremonies. So he did tantra. He did one big sacrifice, like like Chittishwara, stuff like that. And he did a silent mantra. And he created a demon, a terrible demon. This demon was called Vitrasura. There's a picture of him in the Bhagavatam. Terrible demon, hundreds of feet high. But when he chanted the mantra, he made a mistake when he was chanting the mantra. And instead of that this demon will kill Indra, he chanted the mantra slightly wrong, and the mantra came out that Indra will kill this demon. So that's exactly what happened. The demon couldn't kill Indra, and Indra ended up killing the demon. But that wasn't how the Brahmin wanted it. He wanted that he would get a son that was the enemy of Indra. But instead, because he said it wrong, Indra became the enemy of his son, because he slipped up and said one word wrong. So this is an example that in bhakti, we are chanting so many mantras. We're trying to chant Maha Mantra. Many of us can't even chant it right. Gayatri mantra, many of us can't even get that right. But still we're getting the result. But if you are following another process other than bhakti, like karma yoga or mystic yoga, and if you do something wrong, if the mantra is wrong, or according to time, place and circumstance something is wrong, then all is lost. It's mucked up. You see? There's one example that Prabhupada, one devotee, Jayananda, the one who does the Rath Yatra, Jayananda Prabhu, he couldn't say his Gayatri mantra properly. So he was worried about this. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, I don't think I'm saying the Gayatri mantra right. And Prabhupada said, go on, speak it, let me hear. So he spoke it, and Prabhupada burst out laughing and said, it is hopeless. It is hopeless. But he said, never mind. Krishna will accept your bhakti. Krishna will accept your devotion. So Jayananda Prabhu wasn't actually able to say the Gayatri mantra. And Prabhupada said, it is hopeless. But still Krishna will accept your bhakti, your devotion. So bhakti is so powerful that even if we can't perform it properly, and most of us can't do things properly anyhow, still Krishna accepts. So what does Krishna actually accept? He's accepting the mood, the bhav. He's accepting the mood. You may not say the mantra right. We may not get everything right, but he's accepting the mood. Whereas in the other systems of yoga, you've got to get everything right before it's accepted. But in bhakti, anyone can do it, even if you're illiterate. I mentioned the story the other day in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Mahaprabhu went to South India. There was that Brahmin who was reciting 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita every day, but he couldn't pronounce it properly. He couldn't say it properly. He was getting it all wrong, but Mahaprabhu embraced him and said, actually, you understand properly. So in bhakti, the most important item, Ansi means essence, Sada means essence. So the essence is the mood, the mood. So when we're performing our chanting, when we're doing our service, we've been asked to do service by Guru, by temple president, it's the mood that actually counts. It's the mood that counts. This is the most important thing. So we should always understand that. It is the mood in our practice of bhakti, which actually Krishna wants to taste. Just like in that verse, Patram Puspam Phlam Toyam Yomi Bhakti Priyachati. Asnamiya Priyatapmana, English. Snamiya Priyatapmana, it has to be love and devotion. So what does that mean? That means we go and we do the Raj Bhoga offering. And we walk in there with so much pride that I'm doing it. And we make a big noise about how we're doing it so nicely. And we cook all the preps, but with pride. Oh, how expertly I am cooking. And then we offer it to Krishna. But what does Krishna want to taste? He actually wants to taste the bhakti. He doesn't actually want to taste the pride. So it's the bhakti that counts. So we should always remember that in everything we do. Everything we do, we should understand it is to increase our bhakti. It is to increase our affection and devotion. And we should try to do everything with bhakti. That's the most important thing. And then Krishna will accept it. So that bhakti has to be there. Just like we're chanting Mahamantra. Now, we may not be able to get all the mantras right. But if the bhakti is there, Krishna will accept it. Whereas someone else may get each word perfectly right, but pride, then Krishna won't accept that. Or he'll accept something, but he won't accept so much. More pride, then the less he'll accept. So which is better? To chant improperly, but with bhakti, or to chant perfectly, but with less bhakti? Which is best? Group? Yeah. So we should understand this. Which would you consider? Sometimes you know this amongst devotees and amongst the congregation. You have a devotee who's trying to practice Krishna consciousness, but the duracha. What does duracha mean? Duracha means bad habit. They have bad habit. Maybe they smoke. You know congregational members like this? They're chanting, they're trying to be devotees. I know one lady, she smokes. She's about 70 years old. Hindi lady. She chants like 30 rounds a day. And she cut down to about 2 or 3 cigarettes. But when she stops smoking, her stomach swells. She starts getting the jitters, because she's been smoking every day for 40 years, you see. So, such a person is called duracha. They have bad habit. So let's say you have some bad habit. You want to give it up. You don't like it. You don't want to do it. But it's some bad habit. So you're doing it. But you have bhakti. So you have one person like that. Then you have another person who's Paka Brahman initiated, who comes every day and maybe does arti. Whomever it may be. I can't say who it is. We have to think. It may be whoever it is. You know? So many people like that. Other people also outside. Paka Brahman. Brahmin thread is always everything Paka. But they do Nindu. What is Nindu? Ill feeling, offense, bad words, bad thoughts to other devotees. Nindu. This is what Nindu means. Ill feeling. Always picking. Nindu. So which is worse? Or who is best? That Brahmin initiated devotee who is grand disciple of Srila Prabhupada, nice Brahmin thread here, but does Nindu, or congregational member, not even initiated, has bhakti, and maybe even has bad habit, maybe even smokes. Who is better? It's a difficult one to answer, isn't it? Eh? Who is actually better? Yes. The congregational devotee is far better. Not even initiated, but better. They just have some bad habit. But if they have bhakti, and I know many congregational members like that, they have some bhakti, actually they're better. And then someone else, that person who has Nindu, may be initiated, but actually, because that pride is in their heart. Pride, and it's not so good. So we have to understand, we're trying to develop bhakti. And this bhakti is so wonderful. Bhakti is so powerful. And if it can come in our heart, then it can help us so much. We want bhakti to come. Just like Srila Haridas Thakur. Remember the prostitute that came to Srila Haridas Thakur? And she tried to allure him. And in the end, she became Vaishnavi. And she would chant every day 300,000 names and worship Tulsi Devi. So many great saints would come and take her mercy. Afterwards, they would come and they would take her blessings. Before, she was duracha. She was low class. Not only was she prostitute, but she tried to make Haridas Thakur fall down. So she was low. full of sadacha, bad qualities. And yet bhakti came in her heart and people were coming to take her mercy. That's how powerful is bhakti. Can you imagine? Bhakti, from a prostitute to a saint. Bhakti is so powerful. Bilva Mangal Thakur also. Bilva Mangal Thakur was chasing after women. We know that. And then bhakti came in his heart, and even Krishna appeared to him. And Bilva Mangal became so famous. He wrote that book, Krishna Karanamrita, that even Mahaprabhu relished. Mahaprabhu himself used to read Krishna Karanamrita, which is Bilva Mangal Thakur's book, glorifying Krishna. But before, in the same life it was, before Bilva Mangal Thakur, he was Duraja, low class. But in the same life, he became so exalted. Why? Bhakti. Bhakti came in his heart. So bhakti is so wonderful. So we want bhakti to come in our heart. And we should understand also the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Why we chanting our rounds. Why we bow down. Why we performing the service. So bhakti can come in our heart. So our heart can become softened. Sneha. Mashna. Mashna means our heart can become soft. And pride and Nindu, they make the heart very hard. So on the one hand you have Nindu, pride first, and from pride will come Nindu, offense, aparat, and that's on one side. On the other side you have the heart becomes very soft. And the definition of bhav, which is just before love of God, is bhav means when the heart becomes very soft and free from material contamination, very soft. Sneha. Lakshita. Lakshanam. So on the one hand our heart becomes very soft, almost like ghee or honey. Ghee, griha sneha, honey, madhu sneha. Sneha means affection. Madhu sneha, griha sneha. Which is better? Honey like affection, ghee like affection. Both, you put ghee and you put honey in the sun, immediately it melts. So our heart must be like this. As soon as we come in contact with devotee, holy name, Shivigraha, Bhagavatam, our heart melts. It melts and ecstasy comes. But of the two, griha, ghee, and madhu, honey, which is best? Why? Yes. How you knew that? Yes. That both melt at the same temperature more or less. But honey has something ghee doesn't. Both have very nice texture. Both smell nice. Both melt very easily. Both are very rich. But honey has something ghee doesn't, and that is sweetness. So madhu, sneha, is superior to griha, sneha. So our heart should become honey-like and melt in the sun's rays. So sun's rays means association with Vaishnava, hearing the holy name, seeing deity, hearing Bhagavatam. Our heart should melt, So that means when we come and we see devotee, we should feel some affection for devotees. When we chant the holy name, we should have some relish and affection for the holy name. When we see deity Radha Radhanath Mahaprabhu, we should feel some affection when we see deity. When we hear Bhagavatam, we should feel some affection. Our heart should melt. And the opposite of that is our heart becomes hard, pride. And we do Nindu. We do Nindu to deity. I've already Nindu to scripture, Nindu to Vaishnava. Our heart has pride in it instead. So when pride comes in the heart, then the heart becomes hard. It becomes hard. It's not good at all. Is Sarah? Is she around? So, any questions?
Not the person who chants Hare Krishna properly, and by hearing it, will not eventually become purified and get rid of this pride?
It may take a long time. One may chant each word carefully, Maha Mantra. But if one is chanting with Nindu or Aparad, then the holy name reserves the right to give the full mercy. And it may be 1,000 lifetimes before that person, that jiva, gets the mercy. Some advancement will be there. But if we do Nindu, offense, then the effect of the holy name, we don't get the full effect. Just like if you're ill, then you lose your appetite and you don't want to eat. So you can't eat. You've lost your appetite. You can't eat. If you're actually ill, like jaundice, some badly, you can't actually eat. So when you do Nindu, you lose your taste to chant. Just when you do offense, you lose your taste to chant. Your enthusiasm to chant, you lose. But slowly, you may get better. Slowly, and then you can eat little. So slowly the taste comes back, little. Not immediate, slowly. It can take lifetimes. Slowly that taste will come back. And then when the taste comes back, then you become healthy again. Just like when you're sick and your appetite comes back, then you know you're healthy again. Any other questions? Anthony? So we have to chant with bhakti. We not just chant, we have to do everything with bhakti. And bhakti means what? Love. Love and devotion, love. As against Nindu, which means like offensive mentality. And you'll find that one of the major problems that a devotee will have in his or her spiritual life is offensive behavior. Therefore, we have to be very careful about our dealings. We have to be very careful about our dealings with Radharanath, so we don't become offensive. It's recommended we bow down every time we see deity, and we're very respectful in the temple room. We have to be very careful in our dealings with Vaishnavas. First, Vaishnavas will be superior Vaishnavas, Guru, Diksha Guru, Siksha Guru. One has to be very cautious and careful. And then with one's peers, that means equals, one has to be very cautious and careful in one's dealings. And then with inferiors, one has to be very careful and cautious in one's dealings and not become too familiar or disrespectful. One has to be very careful also that one does not do Nindu of scripture. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, one has to be very respectful. And then one has to be very cautious also about offences in the holy Dham. That specifically means Vrindavan and Mayapur. It doesn't. Also, it means this temple is also like the holy Dham. So we have to be very cautious about all these things. So if a devotee can develop a respectful attitude, then it'll help them so much. Respectful. Better than that is an attitude of affection. But that only comes when you're advanced. So for us, if we can just be respectful, I think that's good enough. When we see the deity, it should be respect, isn't it? But when you become advanced, you see the deity, then it's intense affection. And you may forget to offer your obeisances, but that's out of affection. But that comes in Uttama level. We don't imitate that. We don't imitate that. So we should just try to develop some respect, some very healthy respect for other Vaishnavas. And there's three categories: superiors, peers, equals, and inferiors. Devotees who are more advanced than us, equals, and devotees who are lower on the platform of devotional service. Maybe they're just coming, just beginning, as it were, whatever. So we have to relate with all three with humility. All three with respect.
If we ever think like something offensive in the mind, is that better taken?
If we think something offensive in the mind, if we think something offensive in the mind, then with our intelligence, we should analyze it. And we should think, why am I thinking like this? What is it that is making me think like this? Did this person actually do something which is wrong? And we should try to think, if that's the case, why that person did something that's wrong. We should try to analyze it within our mind and see, what is it? Why do I have this feeling towards this person? What provoked this? Is there some envy in my heart? Am I envious actually of this person? We should think like that. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, look within, amend yourself before you look at the frailties of others. Look within, amend yourself before you look at the frailties of others. It's nice, huh? So sometimes the mind may come up with some perverse, obnoxious thought, because that's the nature of the mind. But with intelligence, we should try to analyze, why am I thinking like this? For instance, if I have a morning program and I'm chanting my rounds and I don't have any enthusiasm, then I will try to think why. I won't just dismiss it as a non-event or as a useless day, and I'll try to think why. I would try to analyze what it is, what has caused this. I'll try to think now in my mind what it is. Perhaps it was some food I ate. One thing I try to think. Maybe I ate some food was cooked by a non-devotee, and therefore it made my mind all fickle. Because I remember we used to stay in life members' houses. They were life members. Weren't chanting at all. This is what we used to do in the 70s. And they used to give us donations, and we used to eat their food. They didn't eat onions or garlic, so they were strict, but they weren't bhaktas. And after 2-3 days, your mind gets a little fickle. I remember that. I had a practical experience of that. Your mind starts becoming like fickle, jumping. So if my mind is like that, I'll think, now what it is that I've done? What is it that I've done? And I'll try to figure it out. So if some thought comes in your mind, then you should try to analyze it. And you should try to think, why is that thought coming? What is it that I've done? Why am I thinking like that? Because someone else may be offensive towards us. And they may criticize us and they may be offensive to us. But does that mean that we have to be offensive towards them? No, that's just an excuse, isn't it? I'm offensive to someone, so my excuse is, oh, well, they're offensive to me. But that's an excuse. That's you're just rationalizing it out. So, another thing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, he said, look within, amend yourself before you look at the frailties of others. I do not desire anything but the best good for my worst enemy. That's a nice one. I do not desire anything but the best good for my worst enemy. So worst enemy comes and criticizes you, but you think only the best for him. Or is it practical, unfavorable? Is it anukul, favorable, or is it practical, unfavorable? We should think. And you know things which are not favorable. What's not favorable? What mood in our mind is not favorable? Pride, arrogance, hate, envy, Nindu, aparat. This is so dangerous, worse than poison. And what's favorable? Appreciation, humility, tolerance. Yeah, this is very favorable. So if something unfavorable comes in our mind, we should think, where does this come from? And we should try to get rid of it. If flu comes or some disease comes, get rid of it. So we should try to get rid of it. Anything else? Look within, amend yourself before you look at the frailties of others. I do not desire anything but the best good for my worst enemy. Any other questions? You got a question? How many rounds today, Ananga Manjari? Huh? Akadashi? How many you want to do on Akadashi? 64. How many you try? 62. Pretty good. Not bad. With bhakti. How many? Very good. Anyone else? Nikunja Seva, you did more today. Very good. Anyhow, especially on these types of day, Ekadashi, Gopanim, mothers of devotion. So if we can on these days increase our bhakti, then Bhakti Devi will be so kind to us. So if we can chant more rounds, very good. If we can undergo a little bit of austerity by fasting something, doing some type of fast, this is very helpful for our bhakti. It's helpful. It's anukul, helpful. Anything else? No more questions? So we should always remember this point about the bhakti, that we do our service, and we've been given different services to do, and but sometimes we may get caught mode of passion, and striving just to achieve, some external result in terms of devotional service, and the mood of bhakti in the heart goes. This is not good at all. We may get asked to do something, distribute so many books, and we may go out and do it and become so fruitive that bhakti is just not there. So actually it's not, then that's not even devotional service. In order for it to be devotional service, there has to be bhakti. There's many karmis selling books, so the bhakti always has to be there. So we have to remember that whatever service we do, whether it's deity, kitchen, or administration, reception, preaching, books on the streets, whatever it may be, bhakti has to be there in the heart. That mood has to be there. There's the internal mood, which is bhakti, and there is the external activity, which is whatever it may be. Backup, deity, preaching, administration, temple president, driving, cooking. So that's the external. And the internal is you have some bhakti, some feeling of devotion. So, of the two, to have bhakti, that's more important. How it would go is, the worst is to not do anything. And then next would be you just do it externally without anything happening internally. Right? But better than that is there's something internal going on and external. That's best. So we shouldn't, when we do our activities, we should always be thinking why we're doing it. To increase bhakti, we're doing it to please Guru, we're doing it to please Prabhupada. We should be thinking like that and not become fruitive and just be satisfied with doing the external thing. We shouldn't think like that. I'm now going to put on a big festival, a big Rath Yatra festival, a big campaign festival, and 100,000 people can't come, or I do a campaign and so many thousands, I do so many different festivals, so many thousands of people came. We gave out so many plates of prasad, and we gave out so many books. We got so many people to put their hands in there and say Hare Krishna. I am satisfied. That's not, we have to go deeper than that. That's very external. I should be thinking, has my bhakti come higher? If while I did these festivals or this preaching, that I developed a deeper taste for hearing and chanting, that my feeling for Krishna increased, then I'll be satisfied. But if I'm just satisfied by the external, X number of books, what's the use? So many persons came and gave out so many books and left. But the bhakti has to come, the devotion, the love. So that has to be there also. So perfection is to do our activities, our preaching, and have some feeling of bhakti. That has to be there also. Otherwise it just becomes, it's just an external affair, isn't it? It's just an external affair. It just becomes so fruitive. And we're missing the whole point. So we always have to understand, you always have to keep our mind on the goal. The goal is to prema pramata mahan, to develop love, bhakti. So we're doing sadhana yogi, sadhana bhakti. And sadhana bhakti must become what? Bhava bhakti. And bhava bhakti must become prema bhakti. So when we're doing our sadhana bhakti, which means cooking, administration, managing, backup deity, preaching, campaign, festivals. We have to understand what is the goal of all of this. The ultimate goal is not to have 100,000 people come or to do 15 campaigns. What is the ultimate goal? To come to Bhava Bhakti. That's the goal. That actually is the goal. And if that goal is not there and we forget that, then Jiva Goswami describes it's not even sadhana bhakti. We're not even really doing sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is only sadhana bhakti if it comes to Bhava Bhakti. That always has to be there, that remembrance, that consciousness has to be there. In other words, we have to always understand with our intelligence why we are doing what we're doing, and not just do it mechanically. Not just mechanically do our service and just be satisfied with the external result. You know? But we have to go a little deeper than that and increase our level of bhakti and understand that our practice has to result in an increase in taste for hearing and chanting. You know? And that's what's going to help us. That's purity is the force. That's what we want. You know? And if we just become only preoccupied with the external results, then we're going to have major problems. If only our consideration is external, finish, bus, nothing else, we never want to go deeper, then we're going to have major problems. Because Maya is so strong, Maya will throw something will come, and we'll have some problem. So there has to be this balance where we strive to achieve things in the mission of the Guru, in Prabhupada's mission, so much we have to try to achieve. But the mood has to be there also. Why we're doing it. What is actually the goal? Love of Godhead. Am I coming nearer to that stage? Anything else? You understand what I'm trying to say? You understand? Or? Yeah.
What if we're not doing all these external things? Can we how low level can we
Yeah, then if you're not doing anything, then at least come to the external level and run around like a madman and do a lot. That's good. But I'm talking about becoming a little bit more serious. But if you're not even doing that, then at least do that. Just like I remember when I was teaching the VIHE in Vrindavan, some devotees from Russia came, and they were very interested and always asking me questions. And there's one boy from Russia, Yugoslavia somewhere. He said in Russia, he said there's a mood amongst some of the devotees, not all, but some. And they were saying that all we should do is give out the book, Bhagavad Gita. But actually to read it is Maya, and to study it is Maya. And therefore they were criticizing those devotees that came to Vrindavan to study, saying actually it's Maya. No, we must just give it out. We can't study it. So that's an example of someone just external. You know? How many books you gave out? Gave out so many hundreds. What's in it? I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit, Krishna's God. But I mean, I don't know the intricacies of the deeper understanding, or deeper levels of understanding. How long will someone like that last? But if you can't even do anything, then better go around and just strive to attain some external result, yes. And there are some devotees who that's all they do. Their platform is simply external. And they will try, and they'll work very, very hard, almost in the mode of passion, to achieve external results. And that's their level. And we try to point out, but they can't accept. So that's their level, that's their understanding. But if we want to actually, attain prema, then we have to start understanding more how it works. And we have to start getting a little deeper and understanding why we're doing, what are our motives. And there has to be more internal purification. So there has to be a happy balance. There's got to be like a balance. This is the point I'm trying to make. There has to be a balance. Everything we're doing is preaching, and there has to be a balance. It can't be everything external and no introspection. There's got to be a balance. And it can't be all introspection and no preaching. Then you become sahaja. You understand? You become a sahaja. If it's all introspection and we just try to find a quiet place and chant 64 rounds a day, and we don't preach or assist the preaching movement, then we can't do that. It's cheating. We can't do it. Within a few days you'll start thinking of family members, you'll start thinking of sex life. You can't do it. It's cheating. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta described Dustamana is simply cheating. But on the other hand, you can't go to the other extreme, and the other extreme is just to become completely external. So there has to be a balance. Because this is a marathon, and it's the rest of our life, and we have to achieve that goal. So we have to pace ourselves nicely. So one should take direction from qualified Vaishnavas who can guide us. But at least within the framework of our hearing and chanting, we should definitely try to become a lot more deeper. That's what I was explaining yesterday. And while we perform our service, there's no harm if we can not think more about why we're doing it. What's the harm? We're not saying reduce external service. We're not saying spend less time preaching. We're saying when you do preach, understand more who you are, what you're doing, what is the goal, rather than just become mesmerized or focused simply on that external result.
You're saying that we must have bhakti, If bhakti is the goal, we have to attain what bhakti do we have right now? How do we perform our service with bhakti if we don't have it?
Well, we have bhakti. We have some bhakti, but we want more bhakti. That's all. But bhakti attracts bhakti. So you have some bhakti in your heart, and you're giving it to others because you're preaching, isn't it? You tell someone to chant Krishna's name, you're teaching them some bhakti. So you have some bhakti in your heart. In order to give someone else some bhakti, you have to have some bhakti in your heart also. But we want more and more bhakti. We want so much bhakti. So it overfloods our heart. So our heart becomes like madhu sneha, like honey. We want so much bhakti in our heart that when we hear the holy name, then our heart melts and tears will come to our eyes, and we'll feel so much ecstasy and happiness. We want so much bhakti in our heart that when we meet other qualified Vaishnavas, we become so happy that hairs stand up on our end. We want so much bhakti that when we hear Bhagavatam, especially 10th canto, Chaitanya Charitamrita, pastimes of Mahaprabhu, when we hear this, that we become we start to shake. That's how much bhakti we want. And we want more than that also. We don't want to stop there, we want even more. Because the nature of bhakti is when you get X amount of bhakti, you want more. We can never have enough bhakti. That's what we want. And we must have that greed to want bhakti also. That's what we want. We must have greed to want bhakti. It's so powerful. Just imagine all of us, some years ago, we were all nonsenses, isn't it not? what were we doing in the material world? And we start to laugh when we think about what we were doing, isn't it? An island in South Africa, different places, the North Coast, here, there, Phoenix. What we were doing just a few years ago. And now some or other we've completely changed. And practically we're like saints. I mean, if you compare us to the rest of the population of Durban, we're like saints. No meat, no fish. We don't watch TV. We don't go to parties. We don't jive. We don't boogie woogie. Huh? We're like saints. Isn't it? How is this possible? Bhakti is so powerful. Bhakti has come in our heart. And just like that, and just, what is that? Just in a few seconds. I mean, what is a few years? It's like a few seconds. Bhakti has come and it's completely turned us around. And those people that we were most attached to, our father and mother, suddenly, now we have other attachments, you know. I never thought that I could sever my relationship with my parents, but Bhakti is so powerful that it did it. Bhakti came and immediately it happened. Bhakti is so powerful. I never thought I would leave home. I haven't been home for the last 20 years. Bhakti is so powerful, isn't it? So we want more of this Bhakti to come. You know? So amazing. You thought you could leave home? But Bhakti came and took you away. Bhakti Devi came. You were so attached to your parents. You were so attached to your mother. But Bhakti Devi came. Took us away. You were attached to your children in Langamanjari. You were then daughters and sons. But now Bhakti came in your heart. You know, and now you have some bigger, better taste. So we want more and more Bhakti. So it overfloods our heart, fills our heart up. And when Bhakti fills our heart up, then it washes away lust. It washes away all these things. You know, the contaminations in our heart will be washed away by Bhakti. It's by prema. Bhakti and prema. It's not that we have to clean our heart and then comes love of God. No. The love of God comes in our heart and automatically forces out hridrogam, lust, anger. Lust is the main disease in our heart. So when this Bhakti and love come in our heart, it washes away the contaminations in our heart. It's so powerful. And we can see, like we're following the four regulative principles. It's so easy for us to do that. You know? But for materialists and karmis, it's unheard of. But we're doing it. How are we doing it? Because of Bhakti. Bhakti has come. So, any other questions? It's time for me to get up now. No other questions? All right. Thank you all very much.
I heard that greed can come to you when most of the natas are removed from your heart, or greed can suddenly appear and help you to remove the natas. So how can this greed come? Can it come only by mercy of Uttama Adhikari?
Where you heard this from?
Giriraj Maharaj said.
Say again?
Greed comes when most of the natas are already removed from the heart, Or if greed does come before that, then that greed can help to remove the natas that are there.
Now the real understanding is that greed, lopa, genuine lopa or greed, will come when anarthas not gone, but reduced. Now once that genuine lopa comes, and you fan it, and it increases, then your anarthas will further decrease. And you go to ruchi, and they will further decrease. Now, genuine greed starts at ruchi. So at ruchi, you have some greed, but anarthas also. You fan that greed, and greed increases, and you go to ashakti, and anarthas come even lower. Increase that greed even more, and you go to bhav, and anarthas come down almost to nothing. It's called to the stage of almost completely destroyed, purana. So, how to get that greed in the first place? How to get that greed in the first place? Your anarthas have to be a little reduced, and you have to be very sincere, because being sincere also means your anarthas are reduced. It's the same thing. A sincere devotee has less material desires. Someone who has less material desires is sincere. So if you have less anarthas and you're more sincere, then Krishna will give you the association of a lobhi man. What's a lobhi man? Lobha means greed. You get the association of a lobhi man. That association can be like this, or it can be in the heart. It can also be in the heart. Then as you increase that association with a lobhi man, then your anarthas go further down, and your taste increases, and you make advancement. Does that answer? So your question was what?
How to get the greed.
Yes, how to get that greed. But definitely, even if someone doesn't have it, but they associate with someone who does, something can come. But it doesn't mean that it will always come, because you have to be sincere. Just like Prabhupada had that greed, and he associated with certain people, like his disciples, and they didn't get it, and they left. And other people never even saw Prabhupada, his grand disciples. Well, can't say that. But other people may not have had so much association with him and may have it. Anything else? What do you do if you've lost all enthusiasm? All enthusiasm's gone. Finished. What do you do? Call it a day. Huh? Who will that be? Who would be in that category? Then why are you sitting here then? If you have no enthusiasm, why are you sitting here? There must be some enthusiasm, otherwise you wouldn't even come here. But in order to get enthusiasm and greed like this, we should associate with those devotees that have it. Definitely. Not just associate, but serve. Serve. Try to serve and try to associate with those devotees that have it. And then we can also get it.
Does that association always mean like you have to be in physical presence? Or?
If the chance for personal association is there, then you have to take it. But if it's not there, then there's no question of personal association.
So how do we associate?
Well, then you will think of the person and the instructions. But if the chance for personal association is there and you don't take it, then it means you haven't understood properly. Here is a person who has some enthusiasm, has some genuine greed. But I'm not going to associate with them because I can't be bothered. But I'll just think of them. That means actually that's sentimental. No, if the person is there, then go there. Take instruction. Serve. Take advice. But if the person's not there, they're in some other place or they're apricot, unmanifest, then what can you do? You're going to have to think of the person. Srila Prabhupada didn't have much association with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Prabhupada wrote that he only met his spiritual master on 5 or 6 occasions. He didn't have much association. But his association came from within the heart. You see? So if qualified Vaishnava comes, and that qualified Vaishnava has some enthusiasm and has some greed, and you can see it, then you should try to take association. Serve and try to take association. Listen very carefully. But if that person then goes, what can you do? Then you have to think. But while the person is around, take as much association as you can. And if you don't, it means you haven't understood. It means you've missed the boat. It means there's some loose wires or something.